Let us continue making the 4-barrel revolving boring bar holder for these Banggood boring bars that have been given to review. In the previous video I stopped after opening up the first hole with a 6.5mm drill. Now I'm going to ream that hole with a 7mm reamer. If you haven't seen the first part of this project, I suggest you go watch it now. I will wait. These here are the Banggood reamers that I've been given to review. It's a set of 10 reamers going from 3 to 10mm. They don't come with this hard wooden stand that I made myself. And I actually used the reamers to do the job. Now these reamers, they come shipped in a plastic bag, as most goods from China. And they are wrapped in a brown piece of paper held together with an elastic band. It's not the best packaging if you ask me. And perhaps as a result, these reamers are not that sharp. You really don't want to shave with these. But to fix that problem, Banggood is more than willing to sell you one of these diamond hones. And if you're careful, take your time, you can sharpen up these quite nicely. The small ones are a bit difficult though. Of course you shouldn't have to do that, but these are pretty cheap, around €16. So perhaps the low price justifies the extra work. We'll find out. These are great, by the way. Great for touching up tool bits and chisels. Too bad they're cheap, so not much commission for me. Reaming should be done at a slow speed, so I'm moving the bell to the slowest speed position. And I will set my new VFD to 10 Hz. At that setting the lathe will run about 100 RPM. Hopefully it will still have enough power to ream these holes, especially the bigger ones. Use lots of oil. I will also shoot some oil in the hole in the back. And I should put some oil into the headstock. Alright, 10 Hz. Here we go. Well, the lathe isn't stopping, so that's positive. Let's try a bit slower, just for fun. This is 5 Hz, so that should be 50 RPM. Still working. I really like my new VFD drive. It sounds like it's having a bit of a hard time. Back to 10 Hz. Did it stop for a while? Or did I imagine it? Half a millimeter is a little bit much to ream, but till somebody makes a nice set of undersized drill bits, this will have to do. And with nice set I mean affordable set. Let's clear out the chips. I can see chips being pushed this way. They're almost reaching the end of the hole. So when I backed off the top slide, the reamer got left behind in the block of steel. So that's probably a good reason to have a decent collet set. I accidentally reversed the reamer a bit while it was still in the block of steel. That was pretty stupid of me. Hopefully it didn't damage the reamer. I'll inspect it later. For now I'm gonna continue. Some oil. Lots of oil. I was probably close to the end. Very close actually. It's coming through now. So that's done. Well, I did a quick inspection and this is what I found. First of all, the reamer, it looks fine. No damage because of my mistake. The hole in here, the surface finish isn't as nice as I was hoping it would be. But still, it is a lot better than a drilled hole. This is a 7mm drill. It's the drill I used. It measures a bit over 6.9 and it fits quite loosely. The reamer, or the rear of the reamer, it doesn't fit. And I'm a bit surprised about this. Actually, almost all of these reamers don't fit the hole they're reamed. They're oversized. Some of them quite considerably. Oh, this one. At least 9.2mm. And that's not a big deal, but if you got a long workpiece, you can only ream up to here. You can't get that extra reach. I'm not sure, but I don't think these are precision holes. But the same can be said about my old lathe or the operator. But for my project, they are more than good enough. Alright, let's move on to the second hole. Hopefully I can speed things up a bit. I switched back to the collet chuck because I needed the front of the chuck to reference the workpiece against. I also made this little chip guard to keep the chips out of the dovetails. And while I had the top slide apart, I used this diamond hone to remove a bit of material on the rear of the top slide, and that freed things up a bit. It was really binding on the rear of the dovetails, the part of the top slide that hardly sees any use. Now I gotta move the drill bit forward. It sounds like a pepper grinder. It's breaking through. This here is the 11.5mm drill out of that red cassette, and this side, well, this cutting side has quite a few burrs. I hope that the camera catches the sound, but you can hear it catching my nail. The other side is rather smooth. I'm going to use a little file on here and see if I can get that burr to go away. So that burr cleaned up pretty good. I was just wondering, why do bigger drill bits always need to be longer? I would like a set for once where all the drill bits were equally long, say 15 centimeters. I'll slow it down a bit. This should be about 400 RPM. It's cutting pretty good. And there it is. Well, I have to admit that was pretty good for a cheap drill bit. Better than expected. Better than the usual crappy drill bits I use. The little chip guard worked pretty well. Even though the drill bit worked pretty good. it left a pretty rough surface finish. Let's ream it. So here's the 12mm reamer, but it actually is 12.9, 12.8. Well, a bit more than 12. And that means it hardly won't fit the collet. So I thought I would switch back to the drill chuck. But it turns out using the drill chuck is also not an option. I just can't install the reamer, and the top slide is backed off all the way, and I'm not going to move the cross slide because I will never get it in the right position again. So it looks like I'm going to have to misuse my cheap collet set. The lathe has been set to the slowest speed setting, and I'm going to run the frequency drive at 10 Hz, and that will slow down the spindle to about 100 RPM. And here we go. Now this is the biggest reamer I'm going to use for this project, and I'm hoping the lathe will not run out of power. I did sharpen up this reamer with that Banggood diamond hone. I find the ball handles on this lathe a bit hard to use when trying to get a constant feed rate. I can see that the hole on this end is plugged with chips. Well, the surface finish after reaming is a lot better, but it still isn't perfect. But I also noticed that the workpiece moved a little. This should be 3mm wide here, but it is actually almost 4.5mm. So this hole here is now angled in the block. It doesn't matter for the 12mm boring bar, but I do need to watch out for this. The reamer needs some persuasion to leave the collet. I can't get it out by hand. I'm ready for the next round of drilling and reaming, and this time I clamped down the workpiece extra hard, and someone else gave me a tip about using a piece of paper, so I did that as well. This will mean that the boring bar will be slightly below center, but I don't think that's a big problem. And we are through. Yippee-yay! So that's a 12.5 minute recording. I bet you guys are pretty glad I cut most out of it. So this is strange. I can't pull the drill bit out. there it is. I removed the burrs from this 9.5mm drill. Let's see if we can make a hole with it. That's 450 RPM. Well, I was going to record the drill popping out on the other end, but my fat greasy fingers missed the record button. Well, not much excitement happened during the drilling of this 9.5mm hole, and I guess that's good because this boring video is getting too long anyway. The 10mm reamer here has the same problems as the 12. It needed a bit of force to get it into the collet. So 5 burrs, here we go. So far so good. Let's speed it up a bit to get rid of that high-pitched noise. So this should be about 80 RPM. Let's speed it up to 100 RPM. I think it works better than at 50 RPM. I think more chips are being pushed forward with this higher speed setting. Reaming at a higher RPM might actually have improved the surface finish. It was definitely easier than at 50 RPM. Alright, this is where I stop for now. I'm totally drilled out. I will finish this holder in the next video. It might take a while because the storm earlier this month took down some trees, and I got some fresh wood to play with. New goo.